Show. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Since it's a Thursday, that means we have a Wyoming Liberty Group, which, of course, you're with a slightly different version of Wyoming Liberty Group. You are with?
I'm with Republic Free Choice, and I've actually found out what the difference is. I'm officially asked now after the last time we spoke about this.
Okay, so the Republic of Free Choice is?
Republic Free Choice is run by a different, totally separate board of directors.
All right.
And is a 501c3, or I think it's a 4, and Wyoming Liberty Group is a 3.
We'll call it a 3.5 and just call it good.
They told me the specific thing to say was that it was a different board of directors and under a different directorship.
Okay, so now
first, that's the technical issue.
You've been on the show once before, so let's first off define exactly what you do.
I am a contract writer and researcher in the area of juvenile justice, specifically related to the state of Wyoming. But I also look at the rest of the country as well.
Okay. Now, today, specifically, the topic is about?
I would like to speak a little bit about a diversion program that is going on in the state of Wyoming, which shows a lot of promise and is working very well.
Okay. Diversion how?
Well, this would be diversion after point of contact with law enforcement.
Okay, so in other words, a kid has come across some problem and he's in trouble with the law.
Yes, that is exactly correct. So in 6 years ago, the Wyoming legislature passed a law that all kids that had any contact with law enforcement were going to have what was called a single point of entry, which meant that all the citations or charges or anything like that were to go through one office and one person in one office, which turned out to be the county attorney of whichever county they were in. The county I would like to speak about specifically is Park County, and the county attorney there, his name is Brian Skoric, who recently in a Judiciary Interim Committee meeting spoke about diversion and his program and mentioned that 6 years ago when the law passed, he was very outspoken against it, was not in favor of it in any way, and that he said he was wrong at the time. Now he is quite pro single point of entry, and part of the reason I think is because he's put together an outstandingly good diversion program.
Okay, now diversion, is it for any kid no matter what trouble they get into, or
Interestingly enough, he does not have a cap on it in his county at all. So any kid, no matter what kind of trouble they get into, is potentially eligible for diversion. And his diversion program, every county does it slightly differently. There's no set template. I do like Skoric's very much because in the end, if the kid is successful in whatever his I would say sentence, but it's not really sentence. Let's call it penance for whatever infraction he has committed or she. There is no record, period.
Well, that's huge right there, that there's no record at all.
Exactly.
The smallest little thing these days.
Yeah. And not only is there no record, there's no electronic record. It's not like there's something that needs to be expunged or deleted. The citation, once the child is accepted into the diversion program and the parents accept the diversion program, the citation is torn up. Everything is destroyed at that point.
So this doesn't happen after they complete the program, but just because they joined it?
Yes.
Okay.
And Skoric's point is we can always reissue the citation.
Yeah.
And he actually has an incredibly high rate of success. He's got a very small, simple form that is presented to the parents indicating that their child is eligible for the diversion and that, they have a right to an attorney and et cetera. And I'm going to have all of this in blog form I wanted to do it a couple weeks ago, but other things have gotten in the way. But I am planning on posting all of this on the site, including the diversion form, which is very clear, concise, and to the point. So at his single point of entry meeting, he had, and this is when the decision is made over whether the kid is going to be eligible for diversion or whether they're going to seek more conventional sort of prosecutorial means in whatever the infraction was. He says that he thinks he's probably about 50-50 in terms of diversion versus conventional prosecution. I think from what it looks like, he's a little higher on diversion to me. His crew is made up of 11 people in the room. The day that I've actually sat in on one of these meetings, which is very unusual. They've always been closed doors for confidentiality. When I was in the meeting, no names were used.
Right.
It was very obvious that there was nothing electronic. It's all on paper. There were 12 people in the room making this decision. It's interesting to note in terms of that being sort of a correlation with a 12-man jury, which a kid in a juvenile court wouldn't get because it's actual civil proceeding. So to a certain degree, it's a real fair shake for the kid.
Yeah.
And these people are, they're not bring out the thumb screws, let's prosecute the kid. They're very encouraging, they're very upbeat. And even the kids that don't go into the diversion program, there's sort of a sense of sadness, that they couldn't make it the first time they were in the diversion program.
Next up, we got to talk about exactly what occurs in the program.
Certainly.
Hold on, folks. Don't go anywhere. It's the Bold Republic Radio Show Thursday edition, and because it's a Thursday edition, we head out to normally Wyoming Liberty Group, but here I get to show his card up here. There we go, Republic of Free Choice, which is found online where? Icon website.
Oh, republicfreechoice.org.
There you go.
Yes.
.org.
O-R-G, yes.
So we're talking about
And it's a long type, starting with the R.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're talking about kids that get themselves in trouble with the law.
Yes.
And normally they just get thrown to the system and thrown in juvie or someplace like that. But there's an alternative for something like this. So what exactly is it? Are they going to go off to a different kind of juvenile system, or is it where are they going if they're found guilty of something?
So your question is specifically what is their punishment or their consequences? Let's call it consequences.
Consequences,
okay. So I'm specifically today only speaking about Park County. Okay. All counties have different things that they're doing. Some counties may not actually have a diversion program going at all right now. There are a number of counties that have a diversion program going that is post-adjudication or post-legal intervention, which means that a judge would actually assign diversion. I don't think that's necessarily the definition, but we're not here to talk about definitions. We're just talking about nomenclature. So the nomenclature is not very closely defined. It was explored briefly during the Judicial Interim Committee meeting here in Gillette, and it was agreed that all counties were doing it differently, and the legislature, I believe, decided that they were going to stay out of it because it looked like they were under the impression that the diversion programs were working well as they were. So why mess with something that was working well? And as I was mentioning earlier, Brian Skoric was actually at this. He has been reelected as the president of the Prosecutor Attorneys Association in this state, which means I think that other prosecutors have a lot of respect for him as well. So his diversion program, as I was saying earlier, is a panel of 11 or 12 people in a room. It's interesting to note that the room is in the old part of the courthouse and was formerly abandoned and just sort of used for storage until he reclaimed it to use as a meeting room. One of the ways to walk into it is through a safe. It used to be the county assessors.
That's fun.
It's really cool. Yeah. So you got, these doors and stuff. All of the people on his panel are what would be termed developmental sort of thinkers. When they are talking about one of these kids, they're not on the opposite would be prescriptive thinking, which is somebody who says the kid's going to hit all these buttons and punch all these tickets. These guys are much more interested in the end result and the kid getting to a point where they do not continue negative behavior. As a case in point, traffic citations are usually dealt with by sending the kid to the Alive at 25 program of the
Mm.
Wyoming Highway Patrol, which is a great program. I haven't actually taken it myself, but I probably should so that I know what I'm talking about. And most of the kids that go through that do not reoffend
Mm.
in that way. Occasionally they do, and they periodically will send a kid through the Alive at 25 a second time if it looks like it didn't take, providing the offense isn't grievous enough that they, once again, this is a panel of people. Skorik, as the Jefe, does have veto power, and he does have sort of the end say in these matters, but really he kicks back in his chair. He knows he has a really good crew, and he lets them run with it. And for the most part, doesn't interfere at all.
Okay, because it sounds logical to me because everybody's different. The same,
Yes.
answers don't work for everybody.
Well, so this is one of the things that's so beautiful about the size of this crew and this group of people is that they examine sort of the kid from a variety of different angles. The SROs are there, the school resource officers, so they've got Leos in the room. And the guys that were there the day I was there were on their first year of duty and already could say things like, well, this kid who was busted for shoplifting, whose story is that some kid in the park told him to go do it and offered him money to go do it. This is probably an accurate story because he's not really high on the social totem pole, and he would do anything for acceptance. And they understand these sort of subtleties. So any consequence that this kid now has, and in this particular situation, he's probably going to end up working at the store that he shoplifted from to make restitution.
It's a great idea.
Isn't it? And the other thing is, so one of the beauties of his program is that the consequences are very swift. He meets every Wednesday, and the form is delivered to the parents right after the meeting by one of what he calls diversion workers. And that can be anybody in the room can be one of his diversion workers. The funny, do I have enough time?
Yeah.
The funny thing about his term, diversion worker, is that all of these people in the room are not doing just this. This is a very small sideline from their other duties. There are members of the Juvenile Probation Department. There's some members of the Department of Family Services. There's the SROs. There's members of his staff, his attorney staff. To a certain degree, all these diversion workers have actually been diverted from their regular job to
Perfect
take
people
part.
to bring in. Been there, done that.
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
This is the fun part of this, folks. Sounds expensive, right? Hang on, we'll explain. BoldRepublic.com. It's the Bold Republic Radio Show, Thursday edition. My name's Edition. That's how they pronounce that word. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. And you, sir, are
Tom Rose,
and
from
you're
Republic
with
Free Choice.
Republic Free Choice. And
I got my cue now.
yeah, you got it there. Yeah. Okay. So
RepublicFreeChoice.org.
.org. Got to
Yes.
do that one because some people
Got to
do
say the
.com.
.org. Yes.
So for those people who find that they have a kid who's in trouble in one county, which is
Park County,
which is in Wyoming, they have an alternative. I love the idea of a kid, let's say, shoplifts from a grocery store. He's got to go work at the grocery store because working there for a while, he gets an idea about why it's bad to shop and who he's hurting, especially. It's a great idea.
Yes.
So you have counselors, you have kids. This sounds like it's an enormously expensive program.
Interestingly enough, this particular one is not. Brian Skorik has not spent an additional penny on this program. He has not purchased a chair for his meeting room even to do this. All these, quote, diversion workers, as I was saying, are diverted from their normal duties at 10:30 on Wednesday morning for this meeting, which usually lasts no more than 2 hours, and then they go back to their other duties. Although it is interesting to note that they also personally mentor many of these kids. And one of the discussions that goes on around this table is who is actually going to mentor this kid.
That's the big part, because a lot of times, you got to find experts. They have degrees. You've got to pay them.
Doesn't happen there.
Okay.
And his success rate is really, really good. If you rule out curfew violations, his success rate is over 96%.
Wow.
If you include curfew violations as being recidivism, his success rate is about 86%.
Right.
I'm not sure I know any kid who hasn't stayed out too late once,
Sure.
Yeah. So not expensive and unique in that. But because he has not accepted any money from a federal or state agency, he's also not beholden to them.
Mhm.
And that is he does not report any of these kids' violations if they have completed his diversion program, period. Complete
Right.
confidentiality. And one of the ways he can do this is because he is not beholden to any other agency.
Okay. Now, where did this whole idea come from? Where did the plan come from?
Where did he get the plan?
Yeah.
I have not asked him that.
That's a really good question to go
It is
find
a good
out.
question.
Now, okay. Now, if this is working so well, we've got these kind of results.
Yes.
Anyone else in the nation doing it?
I only know about a couple different counties in Wyoming, and he is quite unique.
Okay.
The current new Laramie County prosecutor and Johnson County prosecutor are following models that are slightly similar to his.
Mhm.
The Laramie County prosecutor is complaining about a lack of funding.
Right.
And the Johnson County prosecutor, I believe, is closer to Skorik's model, but I'm not sure. My assumption has been, when I hear the similarities, that it is because information is being shared at these prosecuting attorney meetings, because he's the president of the association. But one of the things that I think is really very cool about this is that Skorik looked at the juvenile justice situation in this state and realized that he was in a position where he could change and influence it, and just dug in his heels and did it.
Okay.
And he's received a lot of harassment for his
Of course.
program.
Yeah.
Last time I was on the station, I believe we discussed the ridiculousness of shipping offending juveniles from one county to another, because
pass them off on somebody else. I got to wrap it up with you for this, but people find information on this where and how?
Okay, so I'm blogging on republicfreechoice.org. My latest one is called "If You Don't Vote, You Can't Bitch," and it is about my volunteering or applying to be on the Wyoming State Advisory Council on Juvenile Justice. And the first part is up. And ladies, JJ, who I talk about on this blog, I believe is single.
Wow, cute.
So there you go. Yes.
Okay, have to get that number. All right, thanks for coming on again. I appreciate it.